Part 1, The Mockery Begins. The day the sky burned red. General Marcus Hawthorne stood at the reinforced windows of Earth Defense Command headquarters in Geneva, watching crimson vessels descend through the morning clouds like drops of blood against pale silk. For 43 years, he had prepared for this moment. Every simulation, every strategy meeting, every sleepless night had led to this single point in human history. First contact with an alien civilization. He had imagined many scenarios. Peaceful negotiations. Defensive battles. Even desperate last stands. What he had never imagined was how utterly, completely outclassed humanity would prove to be. The Victory Empire arrives. The Victory fleet materialized without warning. No advance signals, no diplomatic overtures, no chance for humanity to prepare. One moment Earth's orbital sensors detected nothing unusual. The next, 300 crimson warships hung in formation around the planet like predators circling wounded prey. "Sir, we're receiving a transmission," Lieutenant Torres announced from her communication station, her voice tight with barely controlled fear. It's in perfect English." General Hawthorne turned from the window, his weathered face grim. "Put it through." The main screen flickered to life, revealing a creature that would haunt human nightmares for generations to come. The Victory commander stood nearly 8 feet tall, its elongated skull crowned with bony ridges that pulsed with bioluminescent patterns. Forearms ended in razor-sharp talons, and its eyes, if they could be called eyes, were pools of liquid silver that seemed to look directly through the screen at each person in the room. Primitive mammals of the third planet, the creature spoke, its voice a harmonious blend of musical tones that somehow conveyed utter contempt. "I am Warprime Zephyros of the Victory Empire. Your world has been selected for integration into our domain. Surrender now, and your deaths will be swift." Earth's response. General Hawthorne stepped forward, his jaw set in determination. "This is General Marcus Hawthorne of Earth Defense Command. Withdraw your forces immediately, or we will respond with the full might of humanity's arsenal." The alien's response was immediate and chilling. It laughed. Not the cruel laughter of a tyrant, but the genuine amusement of someone who had just heard a particularly absurd joke. The sound translated poorly through human speakers, creating a warbling echo that made everyone in the command center wince. "Arsenal?" Warprime Zephyros tilted its massive head. "Show us this arsenal, mammals. We are curious to see what primitives consider weapons." The demonstration. What followed was the most humiliating 4 hours in human military history. Every weapon Earth could muster was deployed in a desperate show of force. Nuclear missiles launched from hidden silos across 6 continents. Orbital defense platforms unleashed their most powerful energy beams. Fighter squadrons from every major nation coordinated the largest airstrike in human history. The Victory didn't even bother to dodge. Nuclear warheads simply vanished as they approached the alien vessels, disintegrated by some invisible force that left no trace behind. Energy beams bent around the crimson hulls like light around a black hole. Conventional missiles and artillery rounds stopped mid-flight, hanging motionless in space before crumbling to dust. The broadcast. After Earth's arsenal was exhausted, Warprime Zephyros opened a global communication channel. Every television, radio, computer, and communication device on the planet received the same message simultaneously. "Behold, the might of your species," the alien commander announced, its silver eyes gleaming with amusement. "You fight with fire and metal, like the primitive cave-dwellers you truly are. Our children play with toys more dangerous than your greatest weapons." The broadcast showed footage from the Victory perspective, human missiles dissolving like sand castles in the tide, fighter jets crumpling like paper dolls, nuclear explosions snuffed out like candle flames. Across the globe, billions of humans watched their most advanced technology treated like primitive curiosities. The occupation begins. Within hours, major cities fell. Not to devastating bombardments or massive invasions, but to simple displays of technological superiority. Victory dropships descended over world capitals, their mere presence causing all electronic systems to fail. Military installations found their weapons systems offline, their personnel locked inside their own bases by malfunctioning security systems. General Hawthorne watched Washington, D.C., London, Tokyo, and Moscow fall in rapid succession. Each city's surrender was broadcast globally, adding to the growing sense of helplessness that gripped humanity. "Sir," Lieutenant Torres whispered, tears streaming down her face. "What do we do now?" Hawthorne closed his eyes for a moment, feeling the weight of his species' survival pressing down on his shoulders. When he opened them again, his voice was steady despite the chaos around him. "We survive, Lieutenant. We find a way to fight back. And we make these bastards regret the day they decided to underestimate humanity." But even as he spoke the words, watching alien ships establish patrol routes over Earth's major cities, General Marcus Hawthorne wondered if humanity's time as a free species had just come to an end. Part 2: Underground Resistance. The Hidden Laboratory. 3 weeks after the Victory occupation began, Dr. Benjamin Cross descended into the deepest levels of the Mount McKinley Research Facility. The elevator plunged nearly 2 miles beneath Alaska's frozen surface, carrying him to a laboratory that officially didn't exist. Above ground, alien patrols swept across the wilderness, their sensors detecting nothing but ice and rock. They had no idea that humanity's last hope lay buried in the mountain's heart. Dr. Cross was a thin man with prematurely gray hair and eyes that burned with fierce intelligence. Before the invasion, he had been considered a brilliant but impractical theorist, someone whose ideas were too dangerous to pursue. Now, with Earth under alien rule, dangerous ideas were exactly what humanity needed. "Status report, Dr. Cross," came the voice of Director Amanda Richardson over the facility's internal communication system. She had been coordinating the underground resistance network from her own hidden bunker in the Swiss Alps. "The quantum disruptor prototype is 90% complete," Cross replied, running his fingers along the massive device that dominated the laboratory's central chamber. "But Amanda, you need to understand, this isn't just a weapon. It's theoretical physics pushed beyond every safety boundary we've ever established. The theory behind the madness. The quantum disruptor was based on research that had been banned by the Global Science Council 20 years earlier. Dr. Cross had originally proposed that reality itself could be destabilized at the quantum level, creating localized areas where the fundamental forces of physics would temporarily cease to function. The theory suggested that matter within such a field would simply stop existing, not destroyed, not converted to energy, but removed from reality entirely. "The Victory shields deflect our energy weapons and absorb kinetic impacts," Cross explained to his small team of surviving researchers. "But they still exist within our universe's physical laws. If we can create a quantum void around their vessels, their advanced technology becomes irrelevant." Dr. Patricia Williams, his lead assistant, looked up from her calculations with worried eyes. "Benjamin, the power requirements are astronomical. And the risk of cascading quantum collapse could tear a hole in spacetime itself," Cross finished grimly. "I know. But look around us, Patricia. Humanity is already facing extinction. Sometimes you have to risk everything to save anything." The power problem. The quantum disruptor required an energy source that Earth's conventional power grids couldn't provide. The solution came from an unexpected source, the geothermal cores that powered the hidden facility. By tapping directly into the planet's molten interior and channeling that energy through a series of superconducting coils, they could generate the massive electrical charge needed for a single shot. "One shot," Cross repeated to himself as he calibrated the targeting systems. "We get one chance to prove that human ingenuity can overcome alien superiority." The device itself looked nothing like the sleek weapons shown in science fiction movies. It was a maze of copper coils, ceramic insulators, and crystalline focusing arrays that stretched across 3 underground chambers. Cooling systems pumped liquid nitrogen through hundreds of meters of tubing to prevent the entire apparatus from melting during the charging sequence. Hope in darkness. Word of the project spread through the resistance networks using coded transmissions hidden within seemingly innocent radio broadcasts. Around the world, surviving scientists and engineers contributed their expertise to the theoretical framework. A quantum physicist hiding in the ruins of Cambridge sent calculations for improving field stability. An electrical engineer in the Tokyo underground provided designs for more efficient power coupling systems. "We're not just building a weapon," Cross told his team during one of their rare breaks. "We're proving that humanity's greatest strength isn't our technology, it's our ability to work together, to build something greater than the sum of its parts." But time was running short. Victory patrols were systematically hunting down human survivors, and their advanced sensors were getting better at detecting hidden installations. 3 other resistance bases had been discovered and eliminated in the past week alone. The final preparations. As the quantum disruptor neared completion, Cross received an encrypted message from General Hawthorne, who had managed to escape Geneva before it fell completely under alien control. The message was brief but crucial: package ready for delivery. Need transport to launch position. Time is running out. Cross understood immediately. The weapon was nearly complete, but they needed a way to get it into position where it could target the Victory mothership hanging in orbit above North America. That meant moving several tons of delicate equipment across hostile territory while avoiding alien detection. "Patricia," he called to his assistant. "Send a message to Captain Mitchell's team in Australia. Tell them it's time for Phase 2. Part 3, The Desperate Gamble. The Transport Mission." Captain James Mitchell crouched behind the twisted remains of a semi-trailer, watching Victory patrol drones sweep across the Australian outback. 3 weeks ago, he had been leading peacekeeping missions in East Timor. Now he was humanity's underground railroad, moving critical personnel and equipment through territories controlled by an alien empire. Mitchell was built like a rugby player, with broad shoulders and hands that had learned to be gentle with explosives and deadly with firearms. His team of 12 Special Operations veterans had been moving through the wasteland for 6 days, escort Dr. Cross and the disassembled quantum disruptor toward the hidden launch site in the Rocky Mountains. "Drones are moving east," whispered Sergeant Lisa Torres, Mitchell's reconnaissance specialist. "We've got maybe 20 minutes before they circle back." The quantum disruptor had been broken down into 37 separate components, each weighing between 50 and 200 pounds. Moving the equipment required specially modified all-terrain vehicles that could mask their heat signatures and run silent on electric power. Every mile of their journey was planned to avoid known alien patrol routes and surveillance stations. Close encounters. On the 4th day of transport, they nearly lost everything. A Victory ground patrol stumbled across their camp just as the team was reassembling one of the focusing arrays for inspection. The aliens moved with an unsettling grace, their elongated limbs carrying them across rough terrain faster than any human could run. "Contact, contact!" Mitchell shouted as plasma bolts seared the air around them. Unlike the weapons humanity had faced in the initial invasion, these were infantry-scale arms that could be dodged and deflected by conventional cover. The firefight lasted only minutes, but it revealed something crucial. The Victory, for all their technological superiority, were not invincible at the individual level. Their armor could be penetrated by high-powered rifles. Their reflexes, while faster than human, weren't superhuman. "They're overconfident," Mitchell realized as his team finished disposing of the alien bodies. "They've gotten used to humans running from them instead of fighting back." The Underground Railroad. The resistance network that moved the quantum disruptor components was a masterpiece of human cooperation. Former enemies worked side by side. Russian Spetsnaz operators guided American Navy SEALs through territory mapped by Chinese intelligence officers. Language barriers were overcome through hand signals and shared purpose. Each leg of the journey was handled by different teams, preventing any single group from knowing the full scope of the operation. A Canadian Ranger unit moved components through the northern wilderness. Mexican Special Forces provided safe passage across the Rio Grande. Native American guides led convoys through reservation lands that the aliens had largely ignored. "We're not just moving equipment," Mitchell told his team as they prepared for the final push toward Colorado. "We're proving that humanity can't be broken. Every mile we cover is a victory against despair, sabotage and diversion." To cover their movement, resistance cells across North America launched coordinated diversionary attacks. Nothing that would seriously threaten the victory, but enough to draw their attention away from the transport routes. Power stations were sabotaged, forcing the aliens to investigate. False radio signals created phantom resistance cells that patrol units chased across empty terrain. The most successful diversion came from an unexpected source. Dr. Rebecca Martinez, a marine biologist from San Diego, had discovered that Earth's whale populations were somehow interfering with victory sensors. The alien technology could track human-made electronics perfectly, but something about whale songs created blind spots in their detection grid. "Follow the whales" became the resistance motto as transport teams learned to time their movements with migrations along the Pacific coast. The final stretch. As Mitchell's team approached the Rocky Mountain launch site, they faced their greatest challenge yet. A massive victory observation post had been established exactly along their planned route, its sensors covering a 50-mile radius with overlapping detection fields. "We can't go around," Dr. Cross explained during an emergency planning session. "The equipment is too sensitive to expose to more rough transport. And we can't wait." Satellite intelligence shows they're preparing some kind of final solution for human resistance movements. The solution came from an unlikely source. Colonel David Sterling, who had been preparing the launch site, revealed that the mountain facility contained something the victory hadn't accounted for, a network of natural caves that had been expanded during the Cold War as nuclear shelters. "We go under," Mitchell decided. "Through the caves. It'll take longer, but it's our only chance." Underground journey. The cave network stretched for miles beneath the Rocky Mountains, a labyrinth of natural passages and artificial tunnels that had been carved out over decades. Some passages were wide enough for vehicles. Others required the team to carry equipment piece by piece through spaces barely large enough for a single person. For 3 days, they moved through absolute darkness, guided only by GPS units and infrared imaging. The quantum disruptor components were passed hand to hand through narrow passages, each piece representing humanity's hope for survival. "Almost there," Mitchell whispered as they approached the final cave entrance, just 2 miles from the launch site. "Just a little further, and we can start fighting back." Above them, unaware of the movement beneath their feet, victory patrols continued their systematic hunt for human survivors, never imagining that their prey was about to become predator. Part 4, Moment of Truth. The Hidden Fortress. Colonel David Sterling had spent the last month transforming an abandoned Cold War missile facility into humanity's last hope. Buried 300 feet beneath the Colorado Rockies, the installation had been designed to survive nuclear war. Now it would test whether human ingenuity could survive something far worse. Sterling was a weapons specialist who had devoted his life to understanding how things killed other things. At 55, he was old enough to remember when the facility had been operational, young enough to adapt its systems for purposes the original designers never imagined. His weathered hands had assembled everything from improvised explosives to precision guidance systems, but nothing had ever mattered like this. "Components are all here," he reported to Dr. Cross as the last pieces of the quantum disruptor were lowered into the facility's main chamber. "Power grid is online, targeting systems are calibrated, and the launch sequence is programmed. All we need now is a target." The quantum disruptor assembled. Reassembling the quantum disruptor in its final configuration was like building a cathedral of destruction. The device filled the facility's central chamber, a maze of crystalline arrays and superconducting coils that hummed with barely contained energy. Every connection had to be perfect. Every calculation had to be exact. There would be no second chances. Dr. Cross worked alongside Sterling and his technical team, fine-tuning systems that pushed the boundaries of human understanding. The quantum field generators required precise alignment within fractions of a millimeter. The power coupling systems had to channel more electricity than some small cities used in a year. "It's beautiful," whispered Dr. Patricia Williams as she calibrated the final targeting array. "In a terrifying sort of way. The weapon didn't look like humanity's salvation. It looked like humanity's madness made manifest, a collection of scientific theories and engineering desperation welded together by necessity and powered by determination." Choosing the target. Intelligence from surviving resistance networks painted a clear picture of the Vectory fleet disposition. The main battle group remained in high orbit, seemingly invulnerable behind their energy shields. But Intelligence Officer Lieutenant Rebecca Nash had identified a critical vulnerability. "The command vessel," she explained, pointing to orbital tracking displays. "It's larger than the others, positioned at the fleet center, and our analysis suggests it's coordinating all ground operations. Take it out, and the entire invasion force loses coordination." Sterling studied the tactical data with professional interest. "Range is extreme, nearly 200 miles straight up. Targeting will be computed, not visual. And we get exactly one shot." "One shot is all we need," Dr. Cross replied with more confidence than he felt. "The quantum field doesn't care about range once it's established. If our calculations are correct, the command ship will simply cease to exist." The final countdown. As the quantum disruptor powered up for its first and only test, hidden resistance cells across the globe reported increasing Vectory activity. The aliens were clearly preparing something: mass movements of troops, evacuation of their ground installations, concentration of their fleet assets. "They're getting ready to finish us off," General Hawthorne's voice crackled through encrypted communications from his mobile command post. "Whatever you're going to do, David, do it now." Sterling's hands moved across the control systems with practiced precision. Decades of military training had taught him to remain calm under pressure, but this pressure was unlike anything he had ever experienced. The fate of human civilization rested on his ability to aim a theoretical weapon at a target he couldn't see. "Power at 80% and climbing," called out Chief Technician Rodriguez from the power monitoring station. "All systems showing green. We're as ready as we're ever going to be." The moment of decision. In the final moments before firing, Sterling found himself thinking about his daughter. She had been visiting friends in Sydney when the invasion began. He didn't know if she was alive, didn't know if she would ever know what her father had tried to do in humanity's darkest hour. "Target acquired," announced the targeting computer in its emotionless electronic voice. "Quantum field parameters locked. Ready to fire on command." Sterling looked around the chamber at the faces of the men and women who had made this moment possible. Dr. Cross, whose theoretical physics had made the impossible seem merely improbable. Captain Mitchell, whose transport mission had delivered hope across a conquered continent. Lieutenant Nash, whose intelligence had identified their target. Dozens of others who had sacrificed everything for this single chance. "For humanity," Sterling said quietly, his finger hovering over the firing control. "For Earth," Dr. Cross replied. "For everyone we've lost," added Captain Mitchell. The quantum disruptor fires. Sterling pressed the firing stud. For a moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then every light in the facility flickered as the quantum disruptor drew more power than any weapon in human history. The crystalline arrays blazed with internal fire. The superconducting coils sang with electromagnetic harmony. Reality itself seemed to hold its breath. High above the Earth's atmosphere, invisible to human eyes but perfectly tracked by human mathematics, a quantum field expanded around the Vectory command vessel. For the briefest instant, the laws of physics that governed matter and energy simply stopped applying within that small region of space. The alien ship didn't explode. It didn't burn. It didn't even have time to send a distress signal. One moment it existed as 8 million tons of Vectory technology and biology. The next moment, there was simply empty space where it had been. Immediate aftermath. The effect on the remaining Victory fleet was immediate and devastating. Without their command ship's coordination, patrol routes dissolved into chaos. Ground forces found themselves cut off from orbital support. The precisely orchestrated invasion became a collection of isolated units operating without central direction. "It worked," Dr. Cross whispered, staring at the quantum disruptor's readouts in amazement. "The quantum field actually worked. We did it." But Colonel Sterling was already thinking about the next phase. The command ship was gone, but hundreds of Victory vessels remained. They had struck the first blow in humanity's counterattack, but the war was far from over. "Get me General Hawthorne," he ordered. "Tell him the weapon works. Tell him it's time for Phase 2. Above them, the Victory fleet struggled to understand what had just happened to their most powerful vessel. They were about to learn that underestimating humanity had been their first and fatal mistake.